Hey YouTube, thanks for tuning in. We're going to be doing a second chord lesson today. A little bit more difficult, so if you haven't seen my first one, please take a look at that one because that one really starts at the beginning. But this one's kind of like a cooler sounding one, harmonic minor. We'll come back to this paper, but I just wanted to show it just so you understand what we're talking about. I guess before I talk about the theory too much, it makes sense to just play it for a while. So let's try it out. This program's called iReal Pro. This is definitely my favorite backing track program, pretty much. Chordify is actually a really good one too, where you can play along with real songs. This one has more like fake backing tracks, but I almost feel like it's better for learning. Let's try it out for a little while. You might have to pause the video here and like muscle memorize this stuff. So I kind of made a mistake in there, but I'm almost kind of glad I did because it explains a really good point. I accidentally played a regular G at some point. It's kind of like the whole reason why we're doing this, why we're studying harmonic minor. I think I might have played like a G in here over this B chord, but that doesn't work though because it was a G sharp. I mean, I guess if you want to get kind of jazzy, I guess there's a chance it could work, but it's kind of risky in my opinion. I would try it first before you play it in front of somebody. Sorry about my handwriting. That's supposed to be a G sharp, and I accidentally played a regular G. Probably just carrying it too long from the D minor 7 chord. By the way, slashes mean minor. It's like a little bit more of a normal convention to put D lowercase m here. I'll try to actually edit me to say that at the beginning. Because that's less known. You only see the dash in jazz books, but I kind of like the dash once you get used to it because it's you can sight read it better. Yeah, a lot of pop songs, this is sort of the most famous key change in a way, especially in a minor key, to go from A natural minor to A harmonic minor. Famous example I always give is Metallica, Nothing Else Matters. It's in the key of E minor, but then has like a D major chord at some point, then has a B7 chord with a D sharp in it. Sorry, I don't mean to rant too much about music theory. That's why I played it first. But that was, sorry if I said that too fast, but anytime there's a letter name that wasn't sharped in the beginning of the song and then becomes sharped later, right? That's basically what I'm talking about. And that's just more difficult because you can't tell your band member to play one scale anymore. They're going to have to switch or play something vague or try to avoid the problem somehow. Just like last lesson, we're skipping every other letter name. Oops, I stacked it wrong. Notice it didn't matter though, because it kind of led to a diminished chord anyways. Sometimes I stack it as 4 letter names and turn it into a 7th chord. And the reason why I did that was just it's actually easier, even though the music theory is like a little bit at a higher level. Just like last video, we're skipping every other letter name. We just have to keep a G sharp in mind. I'll write out the scale real quick too. All the keys on the piano except, oops, a G sharp. There's a B in there, but that's just to make it physically easier. Plus I just kind of like the sound. Notice that this chord is inverted. So maybe I should fix it as /D. So inverted means that the bass note was wrong, right? Well, I don't really like to use the word wrong in music too much, but it's not the, it's a member of the chord, but it is not the root. And the more you do that, the more unstable and dissonant the chord is. So we have an E7. Regular E7 would have sounded like this. Actually much more happy, right? But with a D in the bass, it actually changes it, the emotion, quite a bit. It actually ends up sounding more like a diminished horror kind of chord. So it actually makes a huge difference. Our ears tend to perceive things from the bass note on up, so we're almost kind of judging it as some sort of messed up D chord rather than an E major chord. Next one is perfectly stacked, F-A-C-E. So, second one is the same thing as the seventh one, so that is not a mistake. That's why I wasn't really worried that I wrote it wrong last time when I was on 2, because it actually is the same chord. It's, you know, if you don't understand what I'm about to say, don't worry, but it's because it's minor thirds, and they just eventually link back up on themselves. For example, if you kept going, it would just lead to a G sharp anyways, which would lead to a B, which would lead to a D. So the chord kind of like wraps around on itself. Augmented chords are also a lot like that, where you could call this augmented chord a few different names. But, right, I don't know if I want to confuse anybody with that. It's not really super important information, really. Just like you could call a C sharp a D flat, that kind of argument. I guess there's a whole class of people out there that kind of believe that, like, why do I have to learn this if you're going to break rules in music anyways, then why should I learn this? My explanation of that is like you kind of have to learn what is sanity. I don't know, for lack of a better word, like what is the beginning point in music that is then compared to? If the key of A minor is not supposed to have a C minor chord, it's going to sound extra sad and spooky because you have a minor chord that's out of key. So knowing what chords are supposed to happen in key can actually make you understand emotions better, because you will understand surprises in like songwriting better, and you'll know how to handle emotions better. You can make things extra sad, extra happy, extra mysterious. And that links into one bit of advice I have too that's pretty important, is that try to give these chord names adjectives that a non-musician would understand. B full diminished 7. Unless you've been playing music for a long, long time, that probably feels like nothing to you and it just sounds like a math problem. Maybe that's one reason why people don't really like working this way or whatever, but after doing this for 15 years, right, I just have an adjective for all of these. I already know that this one is going to be horror music or metal music. I don't know. It sounds like a haunted castle, whatever. Next one, kind of similar, but it's a little bit more on the mysterious side. C augmented. Now, it's not a scary moment in the movie. It's where you're seeing the castle in the fog. Right, D minor 6 is kind of jazzy, kind of uncomfortable. Of course, you can use words like happy and sad. F major 7 is dreamy. I would say A minor, right? Just good old-fashioned sad. C major, just good old-fashioned happy, right? I guess everybody kind of knows those two, but like do it for everything. Yeah, I think isn't that super important though, right? People don't really care, it seems, like how technically proficient you are. People just want to hear a good story. So, like, you could be the fastest guitar player in the world, but if you play an F major 7 chord in a non-dreamy way, like too loud, bad tone, kind of not caring about what you're doing, I don't think people are really going to be like, yeah, that was a good story. It's like you have to know it's dreamy before you play it. That way I'm just not doing something too hard to just take away all the meaning of the chord away. Same thing with Mysterious, right? Almost like some rhythm changes to kind of confuse you as well, rather than being super steady, right? I'm trying to play it in a more mysterious way, or with like a weird tone. That kind of thing. And then, of course, the audience is going to be like, wow, this person knows like what they're doing, and clearly they've rehearsed the song, and they're not just playing cookie cutter background music. They're playing something a little bit more well designed. What if you wanted to change key? There's a technique called secondary dominance, and that is when you build a major chord. I'm going to go ahead and write this out. Put a 7 in here, because it can be a dominant 7th chord as well. dominant seventh chord is kind of out of the major category. I'll just say like perfect fifth. If you're a little bit more, you know your music theory a little bit more, perfect fifth is a little bit more of an accurate statement than 5-letter names up. That just means that we have to maintain the correct key. We have to have the correct sharps and flats. But most of these examples I give are in easy keys, so usually you won't have to add a sharp or a flat. So what's 5-letter names up from D? D, E, F, G, A. So we build an A major, but A7s are really cool too. So now let's do A minor, A7, D minor, A minor. And that's why maybe this is a little bit more of a tricky lesson because, right, I'm not telling you how to play an A7 chord. It's not on here, sorry. But I do make sheets that show that kind of stuff. I will, though, show my MIDI pickups, which just kind of look cool anyways. So let me switch to that. I have to share my whole screen and kind of jam a bunch of stuff in. Let's try that chord progression. A minor, A7, D minor. Then we're at a yellow. The order should be blue, yellow, red, blue. So it's not finished yet. Let me write that out too. So you can ponder it and like kind of sight read it. D minor. I don't know, something like that. And while I'm thinking about it real quick, I almost want to say 4-4-4 because one tip I have about music is that music tends to happen a lot in sets of 4. 4-4 is the most common time signature, but 4 measures is the most common length of phrase too. So I'll probably do a full measure of each chord. Do that one more time. So why was that special? Because an A7 chord has a C sharp in it, and A minor just has a regular C in it. This note here is a C. Then if I play A7, that's what it looks like. That's why this is a sweet learning tool, right? I don't have to be a good cameraman because I can kind of show you with the camera, but like, it's hard to even show it, right? Then if I do show it, like, right, I have a really bad technique because I'm trying to make it obvious. That is one thing I need to do is make a technique video. But I guess while I'm talking about it, right, the MIDI pickups, you can turn your guitar playing into sheet music. These are called Fishman. I think it's called TriplePlay MIDI pickups. Don't quote me on this. I think it was about $400. I think they have a cheaper one for like $200 that I also have. You can see that there's strength settings like 16, 13, 14. You can just change how sensitive it is. That's why it's like not always picking it up because I'm strumming more than that actually. I have to strum really hard for it to show up, which is maybe like a critique. I need to make it stronger, but like I think it's as strong as it can go. And you know, it just depends on what you're using it for. Sheet music, you kind of want it to be like weak because you don't want it to be picking up like all kinds of ruffling, yeah, like all that garbage kind of stuff, because it will write it out, set it really weak. But then if you're using a synthesizer or something, it's better to have it strong because then you could do finger taps and like it picks up the most smallest, weakest finger tap and like kind of makes these weird noises out of it. Anyway, sorry for the digression. It's getting a bit off topic, but we would do the same thing of 5-letter names from an F major 7 chord, B, C major. We could also add a 7. So why was this a cool composing technique? Just because if you get really good at this, it's gonna seem like you can use all 12 notes in music and your music will almost start to, I don't want to say keyless, but It's almost like you're a master of music and that like every chord in the world is available to you. It just leads to inspiration a little bit more too, right? Because I could do C major 7, and like even though you're not really normally supposed to have two different kinds of C chords, like you can kind of make an excuse for it here. C7 has a B flat in it, or C augmented has a G sharp. I don't want to like overwhelm people with all the sharp, 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 sharp. Sorry, but it's just right. Lots of key changes. C7 has a B flat in it. C augmented has a G sharp in it. Now we have the C, right, goes to a C sharp of the A7 chord to a D. G sharp. But that G sharp is new because right in the C7 chord we had, actually we didn't have a G just because of the way I voiced it, but if I voiced it up here, then we would have had a G go to a G sharp. The reason why this works is like these chords have a lot of gravity to them. You can kind of hear that I'm playing it in a way that like, oh, this G sharp is really pointing back to E. So that's what helps hold it together. Is that even though it's a key change, it sounded like the gravity of things were supposed to go where they were supposed to go. C7, even though it's out of key, is supposed to go here. And then A7 is out of key, but it's supposed to go there. And so C7 chord. This is do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, ti, do, ti, do. And then B flat is fa to mi. I'm just trying to explain, right? There's that uncomfortable interval right there. It's called the devil's interval, tritone, diminished fifth. A few different names for that kind of nastiness, but then it fixes itself perfectly into the F major chord. So that's another reason why this works. Just the gravity of notes are going exactly where they kind of need to go. And you don't have to do that. There's deceptive cadences. You know, maybe a famous one would be going to C major here would be kind of surprising, but like not super out of key either. And it's surprisingly happy, especially if you like emphasized A minor a lot in the beginning. Right, get people's ears used to A minor. Really make people think it's a sad song. And then right, C major. But right, there's so many surprises that you could kind of engineer. Some of them are going to sound more drastic than others. Maybe a D major chord here. I don't know, I'm just kind of like doing it randomly, but to an A7, to a D major, see now I'm in A major. You can do the same trick with diminished chords instead of a dominant 7th chord. The reason why it's the same trick is just like how this is 5-7 is red and 7 diminished is red. You can just kind of do the same trick, except you're thinking about diminished chords instead. Let's go back to that A7 example that was pointing towards D minor. Instead of doing an A7, you could do a C sharp diminished chord. But even though the names sound really far apart, it's like kind of just the same chord though. There's one note different. you know, and one note added. See, all I would have to really do is take that A7, and this is just kind of hard physically to do, but like a C sharp. Just add a C sharp on the bottom of the chord. Now it sounds way more diminished. I usually use something like that though. To D minor. Sorry, I'm going out of tune a little bit. My intonation is just not the greatest, but I really wanted to use these MIDI pickups. You just go like right underneath of the root of the chord, E, and then just build a diminished chord from there. E, G, B flat. E diminished. This is full diminished. Points to F major 7. Could have just done F major, right? For that super famous sound. So maybe I'll like write 2 sentences out in the description that kind of like explain the rules. That way you have them. What I want you to do is play the wrong chord on purpose, but play the right color. So see if you can hear if it's a blue or a red. Just like choose a different chord, but the same color. I'll try to shout out the colors as we go. Maybe that would be a much more fun way of like working on this too. I'm gonna have to make it kind of small, unfortunately, but hopefully you're starting to memorize it. All right, starts out with 2 blues. Okay, now like a fun way to enjoy this would be to play the wrong chord on purpose, but I still want you to play the right color, and I'll shout out the colors as we go along. Starts out with 2 blues. So you can keep A minor, for example. F major, we're gonna play wrong on purpose. C major, D minor. In order to be really quick with it, it's also know your relative majors and minors, if you've ever studied those. Sorry about that, like the echo in there. I'm like feeding my audio interface back into itself so you can hear the background audio. Yellow, red, red, still red, still red, very long amount of red, blue, yellow, yellow, blue. Let me shout out the colors one more time just to make sure I got all that on tape. Red, yellow, red, 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 back to blue, red, yellow, yellow, red, 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 red. Oh, sorry. Red, red. So I'll play C major, the wrong chords on purpose, D minor, F major, E7, I'm playing the wrong stuff, but it doesn't matter, it's the same. Well, not the same, but harmonizes almost perfectly with it though. I guess let's try maybe one more time with a scale, just in case somebody out there is just like dying to improvise a solo over it or something. Show you the scale for it. All right, here we go. G sharp. Right, so you're almost gonna have to like add G naturals, because sometimes they happen. Actually, I don't know if they ever happen, but in most songs you're gonna have this problem where you're gonna have to learn how to like switch between like turning it on and off. G sharps. Still G sharp. Now you can go into G, regular G's here, right? Because the song is kind of more normal, not as evil sounding. But now we're back into stuff where you can kind of be Egyptian with it. Regular G's per house. This is a really important point to make because I'm kind of talking about the hard way to solo and the easy way to solo. Maybe an easy way to solo would just be to play a pentatonic that avoids G. I don't know if there's a good way to do that though. But what I mean though really is or like the easy way of soloing is just to like play a pentatonic scale that's in the key or whatever, and you only have to play one scale for the whole song. The hard way of doing it is to switch scales more often and see what you can kind of get away with actually, without stepping on your band members' toes. So for example, the A minor chord only has 3 notes in it. This explains what I mean perfectly actually, where it shows A, C, and E, which is an A minor chord. But just as long as you play those notes, all the other notes are variables in the scale. So what scale am I supposed to play over an A minor chord? There's more than one right answer, right? Of course, A minor is the most famous answer. But here they're actually giving a more clever answer. Dorian could have an F sharp on the high end. We could have an F natural for a darker sound. So maybe I should have another video for this because it's kind of a long story, right? You could do pentatonic. If you want to sound more like rock and roll music. I did a little bit of blues pentatonic too, almost by accident, but Phrygian for real nasty metal sound. Sounds kind of gypsy or Egyptian blues. I just did a little bit of that. Harmonic minor, kind of really mysterious. cinematic. So that would make a really good guitar solo if you're good enough to be like changing through all that kind of stuff. And really good guitar solos do. You know, I brought up Nothing Else Matters by Metallica, and that's a pretty decent example. He plays like regular E minor, but then he does a lot of pentatonic, regular one at 12. But then he also does some blues. But then he also does like a different kind of blues. Whatever that is, just sounds bluesy to me. I can't really think of when he uses a D sharp other than the B7 chord, but he might use it at some point. So again, it kind of gets into this, you're a master of music because you're using all 12 notes in music, and you're just weaving in between everything, kind of like a pro. That's the kind of music I want to create, even though it's not always the most catchy. Sort of the price, I guess, you pay for it a little bit. More emotions, but a really complex melody that changes key a lot is not super singable or super memorable. So you know, deeper emotions, but you pay the price for it. At least one reason why I like to think that E harmonic minor kind of exists is because in the key of A minor, you would normally have A minor and E minor, but they're kind of sleepy sounding, kind of dreary. So a major chord in the 5 spot, especially a dominant 7th chord, kind of wakes people up a little bit more. Back to minor. Also, another reason is like a really strong ending. This from here, sure, it's an ending, but it's not like ultra strong. You still have this feeling of do I clap or not? But G sharp to create this very perfect endings in minor. Also, probably what it's just named after, harmonic minor, right? Harmonic means like, oh, this scale is actually good at writing chords, not being for melodies, right? Melodic minor is actually better for melodies. That's what it's named after. The reason why harmonic minor is not too great for melodies is that there is that awkward Egyptian thing. I like the Egyptian kind of thing though. Seems like classical composers would like avoid that Egyptian interval. And they would just, I don't know, they would just kind of compose in a way to avoid it. Melodic minor, I guess, kind of solves that problem. Kind of helps you go upwards easier. Sharp when you're going upwards, flat when you're going downwards. That'll also make your melody sound really purposeful. Anyways, that's probably about it for this guitar lesson. Please like and subscribe, bell button all. Please look at the links in the description, especially if you want to pick up some of these PDFs. And I've created over 100 other guitar related things that I really want you to check out. All right, thanks so much for watching. Take care.